period. We'll go to John Treleaven, please. You have the floor. You are muted. If you could unmute yourself. There we are.
Doesn't it always happen? Good morning, honourable senators. Thank you very much for this unique opportunity to appear before the committee from my home in Victoria, British Columbia. I appear before you as a former ambassador, as have several of my colleagues. But I also appear as the grandson of Ruben Treleaven, who throughout his life owned the Palmerston Creamery and was a champion butter maker in Ontario. His son Norman owned the Holstein Creamery and was both a butter maker, an egg processor, and at one stage had a chicken killing operation. His daughter, Alma, married Cannells, who farmed, the two of them, in Grey County, Egremont Township, and had a significant dairy herd. My grandmother, Lucinda, gave the name to the iconic Palm Dairies. You've heard from John Weeks, Jonathan Freed, Ian Burney, Deanna Horton, and John Tennant. As you will be aware, all distinguished former public servants who spent decades in international trade policy negotiations for Canada. Each has expressed deep reservations about the risk to our trading position and future success should this bill pass in the present form. I endorse their views in the strongest possible terms. I do so from a slightly different vantage point. I spent most of my foreign service career working abroad as the Canadian Trade Commissioner, seeking to transfer the buying power of Brazil, Puerto Rico, the United Kingdom, Central America, Hong Kong, Japan, and the Philippines into economic prosperity in Canada. In Mr. Manley's time as a minister, I think we called the agenda jobs and growth. During my 32 years in that role and 5 years as CEO of the Saskatchewan Trade and Export Partnership, I worked with thousands of Canadian entrepreneurs and exporting companies from every province and territory, who collectively are responsible for Canada's necessary status as a trading nation. It isn't so much that Canada is dependent on international trade, it is that we are successful at it. And we're successful because of the undying efforts of thousands of business owners and millions of employees of Canadian businesses across the country who every day challenge the global marketplace. Because of their success, as you know, 50 to 60% of the GNP of Canada is internationally trade related. Now, what that means is every job in this country depends to a greater or lesser extent on the success of our ability to grow international trade to the benefit of Canada. Embedding in the Foreign Affairs, Trade and Development Act the provision under question risks success in future negotiations. Why would we ever knowingly add to the burden our exporters carry into the global marketplace and risk adding to their travails at a time when international trade barriers and the difficulty in succeeding abroad may be outpacing opportunities for the first time. A company in Canada is in a different position. Swings and roundabouts in their price list, they can handle interprovincial trade barriers, the normal ebb and flow of constraints in the country. But the moment a company goes to Boston, Buffalo, Sweetgrass, Montana, or Bellingham, Washington, every distortion in the Canadian economy is in their price list. I completely agree with Mr. Manley's comments and the comments of my former colleagues. The provisions of this act, if they become final law with royal assent, will weaken Canada's trade position. Now, that's a little bit like the Canadian Olympic Committee offering Andre DeGrasse a pair of ski boots to run the 100-yard dash.
Thank you, Mr. Treleaven. I don't know if you're quite at the end of your remarks, but we certainly are at time. Colleagues, we will move to questions and answers, and as per usual, 4 minutes each. And I would encourage you to keep your preambles short and your questions concise so we can extract the maximum commentary from our witnesses. I also want to acknowledge that Senator Marty Klein of Saskatchewan has joined the proceedings. We'll start with Senator MacDonald, followed by Senator Coyle. Senator MacDonald.
Thank you, Chair, and great to have these two witnesses here. Thank you very much. My first question